Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Board Gaming Doctor. My name is Phil, and I'll be your Board Game Doctor today. In this quick video, I'm going to talk about Endeavor Deep Sea. So, this game was recently awarded the Kennerspiel, the prestigious award for a more complex style of game. And this game has been on my list to try since I heard about it last year, I believe around this time of year, during Gen Con / Essen time. So with this mod on Tabletop Simulator, I was able to demo it and just wanted to talk about it real quick because it surprised me how much I enjoyed this game. I did play this solo, and so my comments will be focused on that, but my review will include game comparisons and a peer review based off of the comments that people have made on Board Game Geek about this game. More on that later. But first, a couple of the mechanisms, not to, go too in depth with how this game plays. This is a Euro style game, I would say about midweight or so, where you are simulating being a research group that researches the ocean and trying to find things to help preserve and protect the ocean. And it's mostly done by this modular map that gets built throughout the game and doing various actions to research and put tokens out onto this board to do so. The couple of things that stand out with this game, first you have track advancement. You have 4 different areas that you're advancing on. They allow you to do many things such as hire better people and gain these action tokens that you use to take actions with and to reclaim them as well. And I guess this borrows from the original Endeavor mechanisms where you draft a team of workers or specialists here, which each give you a certain ability and bonuses when you draft them. And by gaining these tokens, you place them on these workers, quote unquote, to take their action, oftentimes requiring 2 discs, one to use the action and one to put onto the board to claim a spot and claim bonuses. And you're doing various things such as diving, doing sonars, researching, journaling, filling out, fulfilling journal requirements, etc. And you can upgrade these workers as well. And then, as a part of further actions, you can reclaim these worker tokens back from these players or these cards in order to use those workers again. And so you go through various rounds, basically covering up these or fulfilling the requirements for these spaces on the board. And you can play this game cooperatively or competitively or solo using pretty much the same mechanisms. There's not a lot that is much different in terms of how the game plays. It's mostly how it's scored. There are various scenarios that you can play through with different setups and special rules that you can follow, and various difficulties that you can try to attempt to play with the amount of goals that are. Some of them are scenario specific, but others are different based off of a deck of cards that you can draw through, and then there are some setback cards too that you can play with as well. So that's an overview of Endeavor. Let's talk about some game comparisons and what other people have said about this game. So moving on to the peer review, based off of Board Game Geek comments that I arranged myself here, a lot of people really enjoyed the strong thematic integration. This game, incorporates a lot of the Euro style mechanisms with the positive theme of ocean protection and discovery and research essentially. So you can think of more thematic Euros such as Arnak, Salton Sea, Ark Nova, that hopefully promote a beneficial theme thematically towards a Euro style game. A lot of people enjoy the mechanisms such as the action selection with the tough decisions that are made by placing those action cubes onto your workers and trying to reclaim them, deciding which workers to keep covered and which ones you need to use again the next round. High replayability with the variable setup scenarios, the different ways that you can play the game as well. A lot of people think it's somewhat easy to learn, but strategically deep, like Castles of Burgundy. Obviously, it doesn't play like Castles of Burgundy, but the feeling is there. But some people feel like it's more of a point salad type of experience with picking up small points here and there. It doesn't really matter too much where you might go to get those points. So you can kind of choose whatever falls into your lap. Very similar to how people feel about Trajan and Lorenzo. other Euro style games that are drier in theme for sure, but are rich mechanically, but offer a similar style of point scoring, perhaps. Not a lot of people, or some people didn't think there was a lot of player interaction. Uh, there's only minor racing towards certain objectives when you're playing, competitively. Similar to like viticulture or underwater cities, for the most part, you are working with your own little puzzle and accomplishing what you can without much tightness or elbowing, of your opponents. And there's some randomness in setup that could heavily influence someone positively or give someone a leg up as well. Some people, I guess, felt like that was true with Arnak and Endless Winter. And the solo and co-op, to others who have played it more, felt like the solo mode was and co-op, since they're scored somewhat similarly, were less refined, not as balanced, and harder to accomplish. For the physical version, the deluxe edition seemed like it was pretty pricey. The components were really good, but similar to other games that other people have put, like Praga and Mad King Ludwig, which don't offer the kind of gameplay that they're looking for the amount of money that they've spent for the game, that ratio seemed to be off for some people as well. But going through my impressions of Endeavor, I thought, it was, middling for how complex the rules were to kind of understand how the actions worked, especially myself without a background of playing any Endeavor game before. The playtime was fairly quick. I would say that I played my solo game in about an hour 15, without like the intense rule learning beforehand. And so I thought it played pretty quick. With the solo game, it might take longer for a game that includes more players, of course. But I did think that there were some interesting and compelling ways to approach this game, right? So the main comparison that I want to make this to is Path of Civilization. If you've played that game, you, in a similar fashion, are kind of drafting these cards that represent different ideologies in history, as well as like wonders and leaders as well. But you're kind of approaching a somewhat set path at the beginning of the game. In Endeavor, you have these three uh, people, or workers, specialists that you're drafting from. And with a game that's only 6 to 7 rounds long, those decisions matter pretty, heavily early on in the game and throughout the game as well. But you kind of choose between one of these three specialists to start the game with, and kind of go down a path based off of what is available on the board to go and research. And I felt like that was similar to Path of Civilization, where it kind of started pretty slow. You're only taking like one or two actions at the beginning, but then you're gaining a lot of these action cubes. And I was like, wow, I'm getting a lot of these tokens, rather. And I really need to bring on a lot more specialists so I can utilize all these tokens that I have. And then I hired, a lot of them, but then I realized, oh, I've got to go up the track that lets you reclaim those tokens so I can use them again and utilize the amount of cubes and the income of, not cubes, but the income of tokens that I have from round to round. And so it was a really interesting puzzle to balance how much I went up those tracks, and focusing on those tracks and thinking, okay, I really need to go up this track so I can utilize that certain function of that track, and be able to be more flexible with what resources I have. But then also keeping in mind the goals that you need to meet for the solo and co-op version. You have to not just get points, but meet certain criteria, have so many different tokens on the board, and go up a certain amount on a couple of tracks. And so I was trying to meet those demands, and that influenced how I tried to go up those tracks. And then with that in mind, you look at the board and say, okay, I really need to move to this area and go to this spot. And I can imagine in the multiplayer scenario where it's more competitive, for example, that timing is very important. Knowing first, understanding what you need to do and accomplish, and then making sure that you have taken the right actions to get to certain places first, so you can get the bonuses and rewards to accomplish what you need to take care of, right? And so I do think that there could be a lot of interaction in that regard with this game. And that's something that surprised me, right? I'm usually not a big fan of tracks in games, and could be because I feel like they're an over abstraction of what you're trying to portray in a Euro game that's more thematic, right? But in Endeavor, despite the tracks being abstracted. I felt like they were very um, interactive in a sense, to the point where I really wanted to progress all of those tracks, and it wasn't as um, perplexing or abstract or vague, as tracks that you just progress up to get certain resources or points. Right, every track had meaning to it, and they were all pretty interconnected. I feel, and so that was engaging for me to experience, and that made the experience really fun. It was really tight, being only 7 rounds long for a solo game, especially with the first action or first round or two being somewhat slow, made the game feel very tight, and every decision meant something. I couldn't be, and that's what I love in these types of games, is that as you progress through the game, for example, revealing more of the map, you get a sense of, maybe I could go down this route, but then you don't end up doing that, right? And so, or you try to stick on the track that you're focusing on, trying to accomplish goals, but then new goals come up, or a new shiny area comes up, and you are tempted to go down that route to see if that is more efficient for you or not. And so that I really did appreciate in this game. I don't feel like this game would take you know ages to really master. I think once you get an idea for the tactics of this game, you can approach it and experience it just fine. But I don't think it has the same depth strategically as a game like Agricola or Terra Mystica, etc. And so the element of mastery is somewhat middling for me. But otherwise, I thought this was a really fun thematic hero that I would recommend people try. I think, I at this time I forget what other games were on the list for the Kenner Spiel, and a lot of I want to say that I have played a couple of those and really enjoyed them too. But I think Endeavor Deep Sea is a really good game that could be taught, to people who are experiencing board games, modern board games, and have played a few and gotten a few under their belt and want to kind of take that next step into something a little bit more meaty. I think this game would fit that bill perfectly well, which is kind of what the Kenner Spiel offers in terms of who they pick, I think. And so, yeah, so this is a recommendation for me. As I mentioned here, I don't think I'm at the point where I'd want to pick this up physically, but if it did come out on a digital format, I would play it a couple more times to see how my opinion would change, if it becomes better or worse. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Endeavor Deep Sea. Thank you for listening. Appreciate you. Hope you schedule an appointment with me real soon. I'll catch you on the next one.